One of the great things about Williams, at racetracks and indeed here of course, is that they always have on hand a massive amount of Magnum ice creams. And Nigel started the trend. Nigel, 87 British Grand Prix, or 87 season, and that 11B car was one of the most dramatic, I think, that any of us could have seen in Formula One. What it was like to drive, I can only ask you now.
Well, he's absolutely right. The 11B for me was the most awesome Formula One car ever built. You had in qualifying upwards of 1,500 horsepower. You had a clutch, you had a gear shift, you had no traction control, so you had wheel spin at 6th gear. It was a car that wanted basically to try and kill you at every corner, to try and throw you off the circuit. And the driver, Martin Brundle, said it so well when he was asked about his era in Formula One, what was it like? He said, well, you basically just worked your damnedest to try and keep the car on the circuit. And the 11B was the most incredible race car I've ever driven.
And the thing about the 11B for me is that it was quick on all types of circuit, because you would imagine the way you just described it, a massive amount of horsepower. It's a big car. Somewhere like Monaco you would have been struggling, but you should have won Monaco 87. They changed the gauge on the exhaust manifold, went to slightly thinner steel, and it cracked, and with a turbo, that was it. But that was your race, right? Around Monaco you flew.
I mean, Monaco, story of my life, been leading it 3 times and never got to finish it properly. But no, I mean, but the car, and Peter's right, I mean, the Honda engine back then and the Williams team was basically the pathfinders, and it was just a terrific car as a racer to drive, because you had to hang on to it physically. It was very hard to drive, but very, very rewarding.
Nigel, how much do you enjoy days like this? By which I mean, how much do you think about the past now, as much as I know you're always looking ahead and planning new things in life?
And not as much as one would think, but I mean, today's a special day for Williams. I mean, justifiably right, celebrating 40 years in Formula One. An incredible achievement. I mean, both Sir Frank and Sir Patrick, well deserved, and I mean, still be there competing, albeit just below the top 3 or 4 teams, and hopefully they'll have the finance in the future to compete back at the top.
It's not just finance, though, it's drivers as well, isn't it? You know as well as I did, if Mansell and Hamilton were driving for Williams this year.
It's getting the package together, Peter, and you're the first one to know how to do that. And it's not easy, but it should be easier than it appears to be. And I mean, when you think, and again, you know, just reiterating what Peter said, it's just not like the finance, because look at Honda, 2 world champion drivers, and the McLaren, and look at the doldrums they've been in the last number of years, which I think is a shock to the sport and a shock to the fans. And
Hamilton versus Vettel this year. Interesting battle.
Interesting battle, and be a very close one as long as they both keep their focus. But for me, Seb's got far greater focus than Lewis. Lewis has some unbelievable, outstanding drives and races, but then for whatever reason can have an off weekend.
Yeah, like Sector 3 in Russia and qualifying in Monaco. What is an off weekend? Can you think of a time when you might have had an off weekend in your own mind, if you're being really self-critical?
Well, to be fair, let's talk about an off weekend. You're this close, but then it doesn't get it done. You have to be completely there.
Yeah.
And we're talking about 1 or 2% at high level sport. So it's not that he's not concentrating or not doing his job well, and that's either one of them who has a bad weekend. It's just not quite as it should be.
One of the first things that always impressed me about you when we met in '78 was your approach to the race and how focused you were. And you actually used to get yourself quite angry before a race on the formation lap, right? You'd start to shout at yourself and tell yourself to get into gear.
Well, I mean, sometimes, you know, you need to sort of do a bit of exercise to get you going in a car. You can't get out and jump around and all the rest of it. So you need to focus on a certain specific thing, because the last thing you want to do when the drivers did the starts, which is the most important part of the race sometimes, you had to make sure you're focused and ready to go. So sometimes shouting at yourself in the car, or whatever you wanted to do in the car to get yourself ready, was a good thing to do.
You used to love the starts, didn't you?
Well, it was very, very important. Very important.
I always remember Nigel saying that it wasn't a question of when the red light went out. It was actually looking into the center of the bulb and seeing the beginning of the slightly fading process, right?
Yeah, if you went when the red lights went out, it was a slow start.
Brilliant. Nigel, life today, what's your main preoccupation now, sport-wise?
Still all the charity work for UK youth and the IAM, Institute of Advanced Motorists, and you know the great thing that His Royal Highness Prince Michael does with road safety awards of Great Britain and the rest of the Commonwealth. Those three main things, and also you know, our own business interests, and playing a little bit more golf now.
Yeah, but how much golf and what handicap are you playing to?
I've a handicap at 2 now, but hopefully it's going to come down this year. And
playing tournaments?
Trying to play some serious tournaments. Yeah.
Good stuff, as ever. Nigel Mansell doesn't change. Brilliant.
Thank you.